Hi guys, so today is the 21st of the 4th, 2020, and what we're doing today is we're finding the distance between 2 points. And the example that we're going to be working on is on page 249, question 5. So anytime you want to pause this video to write down the title or the date, just do so. Okay, so let's take a look at question 5 then on page 249. So they've given you your x and y axis and they've given you 4 points, A, B, C and D. And it says find A, B with those two lines. That means find the distance between A and B, meaning how far apart are they? Okay, so you can't just get your ruler and measure how far apart they are. And you also can't count the boxes because if you look, it doesn't directly go through each box. It would be different now if we're going from B up to here. You just count the boxes, but we can't count the boxes to try and find the distance between A and B. So there's a method that we use. There's a formula that we follow. So if you just want to look back on the previous page in your book, you'll find the distance formula. The distance between 2 points is this formula here. Now, don't worry if that looks really crazy to you. You'll get so used to it in a day or two. So just we'll go through it nice and slowly, and I bet you'll be really, really good at it really soon. Okay, so I always write down the formula first. I tell this to my junior certs, I tell it to my 6th years. Write down the formula first. So we're being asked to find the distance, so we're going to write down the formula for distance. So you have this big square root, and then you have a bracket, and it says x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. You do not need to know that off by heart. It's given to you in the exam, but believe me, you'll have used it so often, you probably will end up knowing it off by heart. Okay, so part 1 they want us to find the distance between A and B. So let's look at point A and B. So A is 0.35, so I'm going to write that down here. And B is 0.82, so I'm going to write that down here. Again, guys, pause the video if you need to write down anything if I'm going too fast. Okay, so the first thing I do then is I label my points. Now from yesterday, you should remember that the first number is always on which axis? The x-axis. So 3 is the x part and 5 is the y part of the point. Same over here. 8 is the first number, so it's the x part, and 2 is the y part. Okay, and just to distinguish between those two x's, I'll just call this x1 because it's the first in the first point, and I'll call this x2. And this is y1 because it's in the first coordinate or point, and 2 is y2. Okay, so your first step is labels after you write your formula, obviously. Okay, always label it. That'll ensure you won't insert the wrong number or get it wrong. And then we just follow our formula, swapping out these numbers for what we've labelled them as. Okay, so nice and slowly, I'm going to write it down. We have the square root, bracket. Now the formula tells me to put x2 inside the bracket. So x2 in this question is 8. So I have 8. And the formula tells me to take away x1. x1 is 3. So minus x3. And the formula tells me to square that. Plus, and then y2, which is 2. Okay, minus y1, which is 5. And that's all squared. And then you just keep on going, working it out. So we still have that square root. 8 take away 3 is 5, still in brackets, still squared, plus 2 take away 5. Okay, don't fall into the trap. That is minus 3 squared. So I'm just going to continue on over here, still tidying up. 5 squared, 25, plus, now minus 3 squared. Remember, squaring a negative number. If you want to put it in your calculator, do, but make sure you put your brackets around the minus 3. So minus 3 squared is really saying minus 3 multiplied by minus 3. And a minus by a minus makes it a plus, so it's just 9. And then we have the square root of 25 plus 9 is 34. Okay, we can leave it at that. They don't ask us to find the square root. You could, on your calculator, type in the square root of 34 equals, and you could give it to one decimal place, but they don't ask for that, so we can leave it as the square root of 34. That is my answer. That is the distance between A and B.